Welcome to this episode of FloWrestling.
Well, describing my low single leg, it's kind of hard to explain. I mean, most of people that are involved in wrestling knows what a low single leg is. I spent probably 8 solid months trying to work on this, and over the years it evolved into much more. I would rather explain how motivated I was when I was feeling success with it. You know, the best way I can explain this was I was like a scientist going into his lab, and he was on the verge of curing cancer. And how exciting that experience is for that scientist to go in every day and knowing how close he is to have a cure of healing the world of cancer. And hopefully one day we'll have that. And I'm sure there's scientists out there on that verge of doing that. You know how motivating that is to go in every day, how close you are? Well, for me, the low single leg was, I knew I was on the verge of something very special. And I was so hungry, so motivated, I couldn't be in the wrestling room enough. I lost sight of days. I lost sight of time. I could be in that room for 4 hours with 3 different partners coming in, just working things, figuring out things, developing things. I was that scientist. I was that person in that room that was on the verge of doing something special, but it was, for me, it was about becoming the best wrestler in the world. I knew I was on the verge of doing that. So you can only imagine how motivating of a time it was for me on realizing how close I am to being the best wrestler in the world. And it was a great experience. It was a great journey those years. I can't tell you, the feeling that you have outweighs any gold medal that you won. Just to be in that environment for a period of time is an unbelievable feeling. Did I explain it?
Did this might, you might not have an answer for this, but do you know how you developed it? Do you know how it came to your idea that this was something?
Well, I fell into it.
How did it progress?
I had hit it a couple times in high school, and I used it a couple times and fell into it in college. And I had a gut feeling that with my speed, of being able to penetrate quickly, that this will work for me. And when you go into the room and you work on something, and that one partner that you struggle to take down, and all of a sudden you're taking him down 3 and 4 times in a match with the same move, you're on the verge of creating something. You're on the verge of developing something. And that's what gives you that sense of motivation, is when you get to try it in competition, whether it be in the practice room. And for me, it was in the practice room. I can remember a particular wrestler that I always struggled to take down, and I'm taking him down now 3 and 4 times a match with the same move, and he knows it's coming. Very motivating.
How did you learn to set it up?
Well, that's something evolved over the years. My first few years with the low single leg was purely out of speed and purely out of reaction, meaning that I just reacted at the right time. I had drilled it enough. I know when the guy's stepping. Never thought about it, or I know that he's reacting to something I do. As the years progressed, I really developed a few setups, not necessarily from contact, but from outside, that continue to improve my ability to get to the leg. The single leg is just a small part of it. It's the finishes that I really mastered, and it really made a difference. Because when I shot a low single leg, if I got to the leg, I finished. I can't remember too many times that I didn't finish. And collegiately was different than freestyle, because freestyle, it may be a finish for 3 points when I was competing, taking your opponent from his feet to his back. Collegiately, it was all about securing the takedown through scrambles sometimes. So there's a lot of evolution that went along with it, and it wasn't something that just lasted those 8 months I was talking about. That was more of that I found something, that I found a great technique that I'm going to utilize. Through 3-4 years, a lot of the finishes evolved.
From an outsider's point of view, they look at the low single and the scrambles, quote unquote, that come after it, and it seems chaotic, and it seems like, okay, how that person might have got lucky getting on top. How, more specifically, how did you ensure that once you got in the leg, you finished and you scored? Like, what was your mentality in the practice room? How did you get to that point?
Well, the reason that some of the finishes can seem complicated and such is because they hadn't been seen then. Take college wrestling today. They're in those same scrambles I was working on 15 years ago, on developing and over hours working on finishes from when an opponent does this, when an opponent does that. You see that every day. The majority of those finishes today, the majority of those finishes I developed or working on 15 years ago are still some of the most important finishes that you can have today, especially in college wrestling. And there's been a lot of kids that have even added to the low single leg. A lot of people have taken it even a little bit further. So it's just kind of the start of something that that many wrestlers today are utilizing and becoming very successful. In 2004, I watched 3 Olympic champions win with the low single leg. In 1988-92, there was only one person working low single leg. So it's been fun watching it evolve into even a better skill, better ways of finishing it. The ways I finished when I started, I think there's better ways today to finish the low single leg when your opponent reacts certain ways.
FloCasts.